What is up, everybody, and welcome to the first ever post-game episode of Weathering the Storm and Orlando Storm podcast. I am your host, Dakota Wolf, and today we're getting straight into the first ever game and the first ever win for your Orlando Storm, coming out over the Columbus Aviators 23-16 at Inter-Inco Stadium. Have a good episode planned for you guys. First ever, obviously, game review that we've ever done, so maybe we'll change some things up in the future, but right now we're just going to get into some key storylines, and then we're going to do offensive player of the game, defensive player of the game, and a game MVP. Again, maybe we'll change this going forward, but for right now, that's how we're going to do it, and I can't wait to get into it with you guys. First off, I just want to talk about, just really briefly, about my experience at the stadium. Obviously, I was there. If you've been following with the videos that I've been posting on YouTube and Instagram, you'll see the complete game day experience I had there live and in person in about the second row of the fan section there. Super fun, really awesome environment. That section was absolutely crazy. People were screaming, going nuts. The energy was on point. I was so happy to be a part of that fan base and so happy to be a part of that stadium and that everything. Just so happy to be a part of that. It was super fun, and I'm so proud of Orlando for showing out and getting loud. Again, maybe the attendance can get a little better. I hope it does get better in the games to come. But that being said, the people who were there, they showed up and they were ready to support the team, and I'm so proud of Orlando for that. I guess let's go ahead and get into, I guess this isn't regarding the game, but we'll talk about it because it's going around Twitter, and I'm not really a huge fan of it. I'll say, if you weren't there at the game, if you weren't in the stadium, please be quiet about the attendance being bad. Again, everyone's allowed to say whatever they want to say, but if you weren't there, just please understand what was on the camera was really not the full story. Like, in the upper decks, which are not really seen on camera, the cheaper seats, they were filled out. This is a 25,000 seat capacity stadium. There was 11,500 people there. That's a good turnout. It might look not as full because the stadium is bigger and because most of the seats that were filled were in the upper decks where the camera is on the lower decks, the more expensive seats. And for whatever reason, when I'm rewatching the broadcast, it didn't really get our fan section that often. So please, if you weren't actually at the game and you didn't actually see the crowd for yourself, just keep your comments to yourself. Like, it's just, I'm seeing so much nonsense on Twitter talking about how pitiful the turnout was, from people who obviously were not at the game and did not hear the crowd. Please, and I'll say this to just finish off this point and bury it and leave it behind me. Louisville had 14,000 people show up, about 2,500, so 2,500 more than the Storm did. Everyone's praising them, rightfully so. They deserve it. Louisville showed out. They really did. But everyone's praising them. Wow, amazing. Look at the crowd. It's so great. We had, 2,000 people less? And not everyone, but a decent amount of people are like, oh, this is embarrassing for the league, whatever. You know, I mean, I do want more people. Trust me, I want more people than 11,500. But guys, come on. Let's not act like it was empty, like it was a ghost town, like Orlando failed the UFL. Like, I'm being defensive. Don't get me wrong. I'm being defensive for my fan base and for my team. It's what I'm supposed to do, all right? I'm representing this team and I'm representing the city and the fan base, so I'm going to be defensive. We showed out, and I'm just not a fan of a lot of the nonsense I'm seeing on Twitter. The reception of Louisville's show out was amazing, and they deserved it. Our show out wasn't that much worse, but the reaction from a lot of people was completely opposite. So listen, guys, if you weren't there, just maybe keep your mouth shut. That's all I'm gonna say about it. Sorry for the lack of professionalism, but at the same time, sorry, not sorry. Let's go ahead and just we're gonna go through the box score first. We're gonna go through the stat sheet. We're gonna do all that, and then we'll get into the storylines, the MVPs, all that. So let's just quarter by quarter. The game ended with the first quarter. It was tied 6-6. Orlando got the first score after Columbus fumbled on the kickoff return. Still pretty quiet. Orlando got a 55-yard field goal in the second quarter. That was the only points of the second quarter. Orlando added on two more touchdowns in the third, I think one from Roland and one from Corbin. And then Columbus started to mount somewhat of a comeback in the fourth quarter, put up 10 points to Orlando's 0. They had the ball with about, I want to say, a minute left driving down the field in that fourth quarter to go win the game. Ultimately came up short, obviously, and were not able to get it done. So 6-6 first quarter, 9-6 second quarter, 23-6 third quarter, and then obviously 23-16 to finish out the game. So Orlando was in control for a good amount of this game. Don't get me wrong, though, they could have easily lost. Let's not act like it was pretty dominant, but at the same time, it wasn't. I don't really know how to explain it other than if you saw it, you kind of understand what I'm talking about. But let's go ahead and get into the offensive performers, and obviously we'll start at quarterback with Jack Plummer and Jalen McClendon. I'm not going to get into the storylines yet. We're just going to read the stats, and then I'll get into Jake Plummer and his performance later on. But let's go ahead and start with the Aviators. We had Jalen McClendon. He went 21 of 32 for 212 total yards, passing and rushing combined. No touchdowns, no interceptions, a 65.6 completion percentage, and an 84.4 passer rating. I honestly didn't think Jalen McClendon looked that bad in this game, but for the most part, I mean, again, he still didn't throw for any touchdowns, so I think the defense did a good job of holding him in check. But if you're an Aviators fan, I don't think you have too much, there wasn't many red flags that I saw from his performance. So, again, I'm in the stadium, guys. I watched the video once, the game replay once, so maybe I missed something, but I think it was a solid performance. It wasn't that bad. I wouldn't be, out in the streets with pitchforks just yet. But for your Orlando Storm, we had Jack Plummer. He went 17 of 22, so 10 less passes than Jalen McClendon. He had a total of 240 yards and one touchdown, had a 77.3 completion percentage, and a passer rating of 127.1. So obviously, very impressive numbers. We'll get more into that later on. Then we'll go with the rushing attack. We'll just keep going with the Columbus Aviators first here. They had four people pull up in the stat sheet for this one. Secondre White with 3 attempts, 48 yards, and a touchdown. A long of 42, so the bulk of it was on one carry, but regardless, a 16 yards per carry average, and of course that one touchdown he got on a short yardage situation in the red zone. Toa, I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing that, by the way, 10 attempts for 30 yards, only a 3 yards per carry average, mostly held him in check. Jalen McClendon, of course, the quarterback, he got 30 yards on 4 scramble attempts, so 7.5 yards per rush average. That was kind of to be expected. So honestly, not too bad considering the player. And then John Lovett, 5 attempts, only 12 yards. And if I'm not wrong, wasn't he the starter? Was it him or Secondre White? I can't remember. Either way, it looks like they're going for more of a 3-headed horse or 3-headed monster. What I don't know. I forget the analogy, but whatever. You get what I'm saying. A backfield by committee, whatever. You get what I'm saying. They had 3 different running backs. They weren't really feeding one guy overwhelmingly over the others. And I would say, honestly, even though the total numbers for the group, 22 attempts, 120 yards, 1 touchdown, 5.5 yards per carry, that seems like it would be bad news for the defensive line of the Orlando Storm, but really I think they held their own really well. You look at Toa, if they had a lead back, he got the most carries, so it would be him. Only 3 yards per carry average, 10 attempts, 30 yards, and then John Lovett, 5 attempts, 12 yards, 2.4 yards per carry. Secondre White, even the only saving grace of his game was the 1 carry for 42 yards. So he got 1 home run broke off. Other than that, it's 2 carries for 6 yards. So also about a 3 yards per carry average. And then obviously the quarterback you want to contain and keep him from scrambling. But, of course we'll count that as rushing. But, overall in defending the running game, actually handing it to the running back, Orlando Storm did a really good job. The defensive line really showed out today for sure. But let's go ahead and get into Orlando Storm's running game. And This was more of a split backfield with Jashawn Corbin and Elijah Dotson. Jashawn Corbin was definitely running back one. That was very obvious. But Elijah Dotson did get some play in as well. Nothing too crazy, but he got some play in there. And then obviously Trey Stewart was inactive for this game, so no attempts for him. But we'll start with Jashawn Corbin, RB1, 15 attempts, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, including the first ever Orlando Storm touchdown. I thought he was going to get a third one at some point. I can't remember where in the game that was, but someone else ended up getting it. Maybe that was when Roland got the pass at the back of the end zone. But 15 attempts, 66 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns. Really solid day for Jashawn Corbin, for sure. Really, really solid day. Orlando Storm fans should be excited to see him. His number is going to be called out pretty often. And of course, Elijah Dotson did more than enough as well, filling in. 9 attempts, 30 yards, 3.3 yards per carry. So, serviceable numbers. Chris Rowland, 1 attempt, 28 yards. That's obvious. Jack Plummer, couple scrambles. You won't expect that from Jack Plummer. You're not going to expect any sort of scrambling game from him. If he's scrambling, it's because something went horribly wrong, and he might get you a short yardage first down at best. So 3 attempts for 11 yards. It's fine. And then KJ Hamler had another rushing attempt for 40 yards. So that was your Orlando Storm rushing attack. A total of 29 attempts, 139 yards, 2 touchdowns, both from Corbin, for a 4.8 yards per carry average. Let's go ahead and get into the receiving core for the Columbus Aviators, and easily leading the way was Tay Martin with 7 catches for 86 yards on 8 targets. Then we had Antoine. I'm sorry, it's spelled a little weird. And Antoine or Antoine, I don't know how to pronounce it exactly. I apologize. 2 catches for 27 yards. Rock Taylor, 2 for 23. Jalen Moore, 1 for 22. Gunnar Oaks, 2 for 14. Kiki Chisholm, 2 for 14. Toa Toa, 2 for 12. Zakandre White, 2 for 8. And Elise Mack, 1 for 6. Bring their total for 21 catches, 212 yards, and 92 yards after catch for Columbus. Then for your Orlando Storm, less guys getting catches, but, equal yardage, just more volume amongst the guys that got them. Elijah Badger got 4 catches for 127 yards, a long of 79. Almost all of that was yards after catch, too. It was a really, short pass. Took it, obviously, 79 yards. So 4 targets, 4 catches, yards after catch, 90 yards. And you'll notice that with a lot of these receivers. We're going to get into that further. Trust me. Elijah Dotson, your second leading receiver coming out at running back. So that is more of his game. Dual threat, can run and catch. So he had actually a pretty respectable day when you factor that in. 3 catches, 46 yards on 3 targets, and 41 of those 46 yards after catch. KJ Hamler, 3 catches, 28 yards, and 22 yards after catch off 5 targets. Chris Rowland, 4 catches off of 6 targets for 28 yards and 1 touchdown, the only receiving touchdown of the day. Then you had Jashawn Corbin, 2 catches for 7 yards, not much to really speak of there. And then Connor Fox had 1 catch for 4 yards. Sam Wiglis was also targeted, but did not reel in the 1 catch, that 1 pass that was thrown his way. It was a pretty tough catch as well, so not really anything against him there. But let's go ahead and get into the defense. So I'm not going to go through every single player who recorded a tackle in this game. That would be literally every single player on both teams' defense. So we're going to go with the top 3 tackle leaders for the team, and then we'll just go over any guys who got a sack or an interception or anything like that. So for the Columbus Aviators defense, we had Fred Tompkins leading the way with 10 tackles. And then 1 pass breakup. Tony Fields with 9. And Michael Lawson and Akeem Dent both tying with 5 for third there. Michael Lawson also had a half sack, and Akeem Dent had 1 tackle for a loss. Other players that recorded a sack in this game, we got Kenny Willikus. He got half a sack. Ron Stone Jr. had 2. Adam Plant Jr. had 1. And then Ron Stone Jr. also had 2 tackles for a loss. Adam Plant Jr. had 2. And DJ Miller Jr. had 1 tackle for a loss as well. Moving on to your Orlando Storm, Nate Metters, the safety, who I'm really high on, really like his game, led the way with 8 tackles. Andrew Parker, the linebacker, hopefully he's okay. I think he went out with an injury at some point. Was second with 7 tackles. Then Josh Minkins and Darian Butler were both behind them with 6. Kashawn Banks had a sack and a tackle for a loss and a pass breakup. Isaiah Mack had a sack and 2 tackles for a loss. And Chris Garrett also had a sack, a tackle for a loss, a pass breakup, and a forced fumble. Alan George and Lamar Jackson also both had pass breakups as well. And last but certainly not least, we'll go ahead and get into the special teams, just the kicking game. I'm not going to dive into punting yards. Columbus, Ryan Coe nailed all 3 of his field goals, a long of 37, so 3 of 3, long of 37 yards. And then Michael Lance nailed his only field goal of 55 yards. So super reassuring to see Michael Lance nail that one. I wasn't too worried about it. He had a pretty good resume at USC, but still reassuring nonetheless to see him nail that pretty much right down the middle from 55 yards out. So if this first game was anything to go off of, Michael Lance should be pretty reliable for your Orlando Storm. All right, so with all of the stats out of the way, let's go ahead and get into some storylines. So I've been kind of teasing at it the whole video. Storyline number 1, Jack Plummer filling in for Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Well, I guess not filling in. He is the QB1. I don't want to slight him by saying that, so apologize, Jack Plummer. He is QB1, but of course that is still the storyline because many people were expecting DTR. So Jack Plummer came in, and again, like I said earlier, he had some very respectable numbers, but this is where I'm going to have to, and again, this isn't personal. This is just me analyzing what I'm seeing on the field. I shouldn't have to say that it's not personal, but I just feel the need to do that because I'm a nice guy. I don't like talking negatively about people, but I'm going to say what my eyes saw. And what my eyes saw on the field was an offense that was playing as though they had a backup quarterback running the team. And again, not trying to be rude to Jack Plummer whatsoever, but 90% of the plays he made, minus, I'll say the one I can remember off the top of my head was, again, and it still wasn't but a 10-yard pass, but either way, to Roland in the back corner of the end zone, right over the top of the defender. That was an amazing throw, and I'll give him props for that. And I'll give him props for these amazing numbers. Like, they're good. But again, like I said, what I saw was an offense operating as though they had a backup quarterback in, or an offense operating under a quarterback that they did not trust. He did fine with the offense that they gave him, but let's just be real. 90% of his passes, I don't have the actual numbers in front of me. I have some, but not specifically. It seemed like they were behind 5 yards down the field. It was either a screen or an HB swing, a little swing route, or a little slant, or a little crosser here or there, or like that was 90% of the route tree that we were throwing. And again, and then the flaws kind of shown. There were 4 sacks for the Aviators. It wasn't all Jack Plummer's fault. I think the left side of the line was kind of showing some faults at some point, and that was, again, not to throw Jason Ivey under the bus, but that one of the sacks I saw, at least, it was him getting beat off the edge pretty cleanly, and most of the issues I saw were coming from the left side. So hopefully we can shore that up. But again, I think Jack Plummer shares just as much blame as the left side of the line does, or the line as a whole. Let's just include them as a unit. I think Jack Plummer shares just as much blame, if not more, for the sacks as the line does because he's a statue. There's plays where he's just standing there, and then if there's not an open guy that can get open, it's a sack, or he's going to try and run and get 2 yards, and then might as well be a sack, So it's like, it's just the deficiency in terms of mobility is very obvious. And it just seems like they're playing scared when he's throwing the ball. I'm obviously just insinuating that. It's not inside sources whatsoever, but all these little slants, all these little, 2 yards, 3 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 6 yards, 7 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards, 10 yards, 11 yards, 12 yards, 13 yards, 14 yards, 15 yards, 16 yards, 17 yards, 18 yards, 19 yards, 20 yards, 21 yards, 22 yards, 23 yards, 24 yards, 25 yards, 26 yards, 27 yards, 28 yards, 29 yards, 30 yards, 31 yards, 32 yards, 33 yards, 34 yards, 35 yards, 36 yards, 37 yards, 38 yards, 39 yards, 40 yards, 41 yards, 42 yards, 43 yards, 44 yards, 45 yards, 46 yards, 47 yards, 48 yards, 49 yards, 50 yards, 51 yards, 52 yards, 53 yards, 54 yards, 55 yards, 56 yards, 57 yards, 58 yards, 59 yards, 60 yards HB swings, all these little screens, all these little whatevers. That might work against the Aviators. I don't know how good they're going to be this year. That might have worked in this game. That might work when you have 3 interceptions that were pretty much that would have been taken to the house called back due to penalty. And I know one of them he knew it was a penalty anyways, but the other two, I don't know. So that might work when you have all that going. But when you play a legit defense, a legit like a really, and again, I'm not saying the Aviators aren't legit, but you can only get away with it for so long. And if you want to be a 5-5 team this year, you want to be a 6-4 team this year that loses in the first round of the playoffs, that might be fine. But if you want to be an actual contender and go to a championship game and win it all, you're not gonna do it playing this style of offense. It's good enough until it's not. And again, part of me again feels bad for doing this after what is an impressive statistical game. But again, this style of offense, these little dump behind the line of scrimmage, almost every single pass, eventually teams are going to catch on to this. And like I said, if it weren't for, you know, a fumble on a kickoff return, if it weren't for, like I said, at least 2 of those 3 interceptions getting called back because of a penalty, this game could have been very different, and the vibes around this team could have been very different. And this stat line would have looked very different. 1 touchdown, the 3 interceptions. And actually, I don't think he gets that 1 touchdown if one of those interceptions hold true. So, obviously the stat line looks very different. So I'm saying, like, again, props to Jack Plummer for the performance he put up, but it could have been very different, and in the future, it might be, So it is what it is. He did enough for us to win the game. But I'm not confident. I'm not confident going forward that we can be a, top 3 team in the league with this every single week. I'm just not confident in it. And some numbers to back this up. Okay, so this is really all I got here. But Orlando Storm receiving yards, a total of 240 receiving yards. 179 of those yards were after catch. So only a total of 60 air yards. In totality of 240, this ball only traveled 60 yards down the field all day long. There are quarterbacks who get that on one play. Like 180-yard Hail Mary pass, catch, touchdown. You can get that on one. Now, obviously very difficult, don't get me wrong. But 2 plays, 3 plays, 4 plays. Over 240 yards, only 60 air yards. And we see the attempts. It's not like it's 17 completions on 22 attempts. It was very apparent that they were babying the offense, playing it very safe, letting the defense kind of keep the score down, and just doing enough to get by. And like I said, that works when you have all these things go your way. But I'm not ignoring the fact that Columbus could have easily won this game, and instead of Orlando Storm being 4th in all these power rankings, 3 or 4, they would be 8 or 7. Like, people would rush to do that if we had just lost this game, and if dude had just not fumbled on a kickoff return. Again, you can say this about any game, and I don't want to keep ragging on him. At the end of the day, he had a good game, but I'm not the type of person to just look at the stats. Like, we're going to look at how it actually played out, and I'm taking that into consideration. So we survived for this game, but I'm putting it out there. I'm feeling nervous about it going forward. I'm just not convinced. The bottom line is Jack Plummer didn't do anything to convince me that he should be the quarterback 1 for the rest of the season. He didn't really do anything to convince me he should be the quarterback 1 for next week either. But that being said, I guess he didn't really do anything to lose it because of how everything, broke our way. So we'll see what happens going into next week. But that's storyline number 1 for this game is Jack Plummer Jack Plummer taking over at QB1, and finishing with a solid stat line, but stats do not tell the whole story. we'll see if he can keep up the success in week 2. I'm still nervous. I'm still really nervous about it. And I just really hope it doesn't come back to bite us. I hope he continually improves and gets better and improves upon this performance and just see them open the playbook a bit more. But yeah, that's going to do it. That's storyline number 1. Storyline number 2 is going to build off of that and was the focal point of the Storm's offense. Alongside the wide receivers just making freaking plays off these little short passes. I mean, my God, they were amazing. But storyline number two is Jashaun Corbin. He's a dog, dude. There's a reason he led the UFL in touchdowns last year. He might do it again this year. Orlando, you have gotten a dog from the San Antonio Brahmas. Jashaun Corbin, he's an absolute beast. I thought he was going to get 3. I really wanted him to get 3. But first touchdown, I'm so happy I got it on camera. I just happened to be recording, and Jashaun Corbin, first ever touchdown in Orlando Storm history, and then he added on another one and could have had a third one, but it went to Roland. So congrats, Roland, on that one. But a really good game. 15 attempts, 66 yards, 2 touchdowns, 4.4. So it's not one of those like streaky, and his long was 15. So it's not like, again, no disrespect to Zakondre White, but 3 attempts for 48 yards with a long of 42. So really, you were running at about a 3 yard per carry average, but you had one that broke, and obviously, props to you for breaking it. But it's kind of like a boomer bust type of situation there, where Jashaun Corbin, that is solid, consistent production. Like that is something you can depend on from game to game. Not every game are you going to break off a 40, 50, 60 yarder, but that stat line that Jashaun Corbin put up, 15, 66, 4.4 yards per carry, 2 touchdowns, like that's something that you can depend on game to game to game. And Jashaun proved that in his first game, back with another team, back with the Orlando Storm, and he was great. He helped carry this offense along with, not to take away from his spotlight, but along with all of the playmakers, all at wide receiver, just again taking all these little short passes and making something out of them. But that is, I don't want to keep going back to it, but that is kind of how this offense is set up right now, at least with Plummer at quarterback. It's just, we have every position is stacked. I mean, every single position. I think offensive line is really good. I'm a little worried about the left side, but overall, I still think really, really good. Wide receivers, we're freaking stacked. Might be the best position on the team. Running back, we're freaking stacked. That could be the best position on the team. But the quarterback, it's just, and the way they're playing, it's almost like they're acknowledging that. I mean, don't take it as, don't be offended by me saying it. Just look at how they're playing. When half of your passes are thrown less than 5 yards down the field, what is that telling me? You might not be saying it, but if you really trust in it, where are all the deep balls? Where are the intermediate routes? But again, it works until it doesn't. So I'm just saying it makes me nervous, but that is how this offense is set up. Get the ball to the playmakers as safely as possible and let them work. So maybe that was the ideology over starting Jack Plummer over DTR, is they just thought he's the safer quarterback. He's not going to make as many mistakes. Even if the ceiling isn't as high, the mistakes aren't as high as well. So maybe that's the thought process. But again, I would fight back because there were interceptions. They just got called back. So sorry to pull away from storyline number 2 from Jashaun Corbin, but it all kind of circles back to this. That's the overwhelming storyline of this entire team and this entire season is that. So moving right on along, we'll go to storyline number 3, which is the defense just holds on just long enough to win this game for the Orlando Storm. Again, most of this game, at the end of the third quarter, the Orlando Storm were whooping them 23-6. I mean, it was a whooping. We were feeling good in that stadium. We were vibing out. There was no worries whatsoever. But slowly but surely, the Aviators kept chipping away in the fourth quarter, and they were driving down with a minute left. They could have easily tied that game or won it. That was in the back of my head. Hey, they're probably going to go for 2 and try to win this thing. And we were talking crap in that end zone, so I would feel really stupid if that happened. But but storyline number three, the defense just holds on long enough, thanks to and I'm gonna shout him out. I'll shout him out now. Anyways, Darian Butler filling in for Tavante Beckett. That was it was a bit of a concern, but I actually like really like Darian Butler. So I kind of mentioned that in the pregame show. I was like, he is a very solid replacement for Tavante Beckett. Tavante Beckett, all UFL, led the UFL in tackles. So it's almost impossible to replace that at middle linebacker for your team. But Darian Butler came in and he did a solid job. Not a crazy like stat sheet, but 6 tackles. I mean, nothing else. But like he came up and he made clutch plays. Like at least 2 separate times I can remember him just blowing right up the line of scrimmage and stuffing the running back right at the line. And he had the energy too. Every time he made a play, he made sure everyone in that stadium knew about it. I love to see it. He gets the whole crowd hype. But really liked what I saw from Darian Butler. That was really impressive, especially for someone who's filling in, coming off the bench, I guess you would say. Like he's proven himself and he's going out there and he did his thing. So shout out Darian Butler. Really impressive performance holding up for that defense. But what really sealed the deal was about 30 seconds left. I thought it was Darius Payne that came up and made the sack, but he doesn't have a sack on the stat sheet. But obviously, it was somebody. Let me look who has a sack on the Orlando Storm. There's a number of people. So Chris Garrett, Isaiah Mack, and Kashawn Banks all had a sack in this game. So it was one of them three. I'm sorry. I thought it was Darius Payne. I really did. So regardless, defensive line, linebacking unit, they came in clutch at the very end and got Jalen McClendon down to the ground. That wasted a lot of time. They were able to get one more play off, but by the time the dude caught it and was tackled, the clock was at 0 and the game was over. So really, it was the sack at the end to seal the game for the Orlando Storm and secure that victory that really that put the nail in the coffin for sure. So the defense had a really good day. It started to get scary at the end, like I said, but again, they're probably playing a softer coverage. They're letting them, go down the field. I'm not a fan of that, by the way. I'm not a fan of playing soft and kind of letting the offense get back into it. I'm not a fan of that philosophy. I understand it because you'd rather them score slowly, drain all the clock, than score quickly by trying to play aggressive and put the nail in the coffin early. So I understand it. I'm just not a fan of it. I think you can let the offense get on a roll and get hot and then start feeling themselves and then put up points slowly or whatever. But regardless, the defense did what they needed to do and it worked. It worked for them. So shout out to the defensive line, shout out to the linebackers, and obviously shout out the whole defense, DBs, safeties. They all showed up on Sunday night and really, really held their own. But those were the 3 major storylines that I came up with out of this game. Let's go ahead and give out our little awards for Offensive Player of the Game, Defensive Player of the Game, and Game MVP. So, Offensive Player of the Game, obviously, I won't spoil it. Offensive Player of the Game goes to Elijah Badger, obviously, wide receiver. Let me pull up his stats again real quick. He had 4 catches, 127 yards with that long of 79 off 4 targets, 90 yards after catch. So really clutch. I think we were backed up in our own red zone, like in our own end zone back here, like maybe the 5-10 yard line. Elijah Badger gets like a little curl route or a screen pass or something, again, less than 5 yards down the field, catches it, takes it about 80 yards down the field, gets us, I think it should have been a touchdown, but we had a block in the back, so it called it back. Huge freaking play, and that really, that kind of, I don't want to say sealed the game, but that, obviously, if we don't get that game could have went very, very differently. So huge clutch play by Elijah Badger, and obviously just had a good game in general outside of that. Even if you exclude the 79 yards from his 127, I mean, what that gives you about 50 left over, 47, whatever, 48. So really good day from Elijah Badger and really good day from the entire receiving core and offensive skill players. So shout out Elijah Badger, first ever Weathering the Storm Orlando Storm podcast offensive player of the game, Elijah Badger. And then we'll go defensive player of the game. I already shouted him out. Darian Butler, again, gets bonus points because he is not supposed to be the starting middle linebacker. He comes into Vontae Beckett's place and shows out clutch play after clutch play. Energy was on point, short tackles. I mean, he balled out, and I was super happy to see him come in and make a name for himself because dude was hype. He had the energy. Love to see it. 6 tackles again. Nothing else on the stat sheet, but there's more than just the stat sheet. So if you watched it, you saw it. It popped off of the film, and then obviously your MVP ranted and raved about him. He was the second storyline. Jashawn Corbin, your running back, leading touchdown runner rusher last year for in the UFL. Absolute dog. So I don't what else to say. He got MVP, first ever Orlando Storm touchdown. Super happy to have him over from the Brahmas. That was such an easy decision. And dude, actually, like, I thought he had retired at some point. Like, he had left. I forget what happened in the offseason, but he was on the active roster. They put him on the retired list, and then he decided, like, I don't know what happened, but then he was back on the roster. So we had replaced him with a different Florida State running back, and then Jashawn Corbin decided to come back, and then the other guy left. I don't remember what exactly happened, but at some point we thought we were going to be without Jashawn Corbin, and Jashawn Corbin, I highly doubt you are actually watching this, but if you are, I'm so freaking happy to have you on the team, dude. You killed it. So happy to have you here, and happy to see you play for the rest of the season, dude. You're absolutely going to ball out for the Orlando Storm, and Orlando is so happy to have you here. You're a dog. You're an absolute freaking dog. But yeah, guys, that's going to wrap it up. I apologize for getting a little salty about the Twitter reaction to our fan size or crowd size. I can't stand it, dude. People who aren't even at the stadium are just, how you waiting outside of the club? You can't even get in. That's how I feel about that, honestly. Like, please, just people just Twitter. That is what Twitter is. People just love talking about what they don't know, what they don't know about. So that is what it is. And again, don't take anything personally about if I talked about your favorite player or if you are the player I talked about. Don't take it personally. I'm analyzing what I see on the field, and I'm saying it how it is. It's not personal. I'm just trying to break it down. And I'm actually trying to be really nice about it too. So at the end of the day, all I want is for this team to succeed and do as well as they possibly can, for the fan base to show up, and for this to be a fun time for everyone involved. So, and for us to win as many games as possible and bring a championship to Orlando, the first ever professional championship for the city of Orlando. How awesome does that sound? We almost had it with the Apollos. Maybe the Orlando Storm can bring it here. Who knows? I really hope so. And I just hope this keeps going for as long as possible. But that's going to do it for this video, guys. Breaking down the Orlando Storm's 23-16 win over the Columbus Aviators at Enterco Stadium in Orlando, Florida. The first ever game and the first ever win for your Orlando Storm. Until next time, guys, we take on the Louisville Kings this Saturday at 8 p.m. as well, I think. 7 or 8 p.m. This Saturday night. Show up. Please be there. If we can get even more people than we had for this game, it's going to be awesome, man. I mean, the section I was in was loud, and they were going crazy. They were into it. If we can just keep bringing that game energy every game, it's going to be awesome, and it's truly special to be a part of. If you were there and you were in this section with me, and you were going crazy, and you were screaming your freaking lungs out, thank you. You are so valuable to this team, and you are so valuable to this fan base. I appreciate you so much, and I appreciate all of you watching, all of you that showed up. Even if you couldn't show up and you were watching on TV, if you're in Orlando and you didn't show up, I mean, come on, bro. Show up, please. But if you're far away and you couldn't show up and you were watching on the team, screaming at home on your couch, I appreciate you too. I appreciate all of you. And I'm so happy to be doing this, and I'm so happy we've come so far. Oh, we hit 100 subscribers. I don't know. I completely forgot to mention that. I got caught up in the recap, but we hit 100 subscribers. Thank you all so much. It means so much to me. Y'all don't even know. When I first started this, I really had no idea, where it was going to go, what was going to happen. I was so nervous. Like, I just have a microphone and a camera. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like, I love football. That's really it. I love football. I love Orlando. I loved UCF. And I decided, I'm going to start talking about it. I'm going to start talking about this new team, and I'm going to grow as this fan base grows and as this new team grows. And it's been going so well. I know there's so much more room to grow, but I'm happy, and I'm happy we've grown so much together. And I appreciate every single one of you, whether you just joined or you were here from the very beginning. I'm so appreciative. Y'all don't even know. But with that being said, let's go ahead and wrap it up. Thank you for weathering the storm. Go Storm. Surge on.